Yeah, hi, Dr. Jones. Just taking a look here at Mr. Rainey's resume and would like to point out a few things. Um, One is his registration with space available here is not so good. Um, so I think he could use a little more space in his name there to be able to see, you know, uh, uh, you know, just some space there around his name. It seems very compact and very pressed in there. And his address is really unimportant. This is not something that they recommend you have to have your address. So this is really unnecessary unless it's specific to you that you're going to be applying in a local area. Addresses really are not put on resumes any longer. And you know, um, I've removed that over here. So you can see that over here also, since he's applying for a marketing position, uh, in marketing, we are allowed to have much, much more creative resumes that are typically considered to be inappropriate conduct. Uh, I've got a very nice design for him, a lot of white space where you can see, you know, the design on the top and bottom. The next thing I would like to mention is his unprofessional email address here. It's not really, since he owns his own company, it's not very impressive to me to see that, he's got a Yahoo address here. And I would highly encourage him moving forward to go on ahead and do something like I did for him here. This is sbconsulting.com. This is coming across much more professional, and he could just have, Sam at sbconsulting.com. This URL is not going to cost them probably $9. It could be $15, you know, and you can see the icons that we have are quite nice. So um, we we have like an email icon here and a phone icon. And this is very popular now today. They're highly recommending all resumes in the year of 2018 to please include your LinkedIn uh, profile. And the preference is honestly to make these email addresses here hot. So these should be hot to where the interviewer can click on it and it would take you directly to the person's LinkedIn address and directly to the email. Naturally, his portfolio design is just an extension of his uniform resource locator, the sbconsulting.com. Uh, Very simple to understand. So this is fresh and freestanding and full frontal forward for the year of 2018. And really, things I'm doing here are somewhat cutting edge for 2014, 2015. So his objective here uh, is much less insulting than this. Seems very centered on himself. He's got getting hired for my outstanding knowledge, skills, and abilities. Um, so, you know, doesn't really make sense either at Lowry Development. That's the job he's actually applying to. So here we have much more of a focus on the benefits for the employer, enriching the employer, making cash for the employer. And that's really what the employer is interested in. They could care less anything about you and what you're going to get. I'm powerfully interested in showing how hungry I am to hit it out of the park in a successful corporate setting. I dream of using my excellent knowledge, skills, and abilities for the benefit and profits of Lowry Development. I think that's pretty good. Uh, we just erase that there. Some of the other things I didn't care for in his resume, um, his his spacing is incorrect. If you look at it, you know his spacing is incorrect. Uh, this should be lined up. These types of things, they're not. and it just does not look good. For instance, here he has his company that he works for is bolded. Here, the company that he worked for is not. Also, the spacing is off here. It's different, okay? And then um, he does not follow the same format here. So these are not good. These are classic faux pas of resume design, and he does not have it very well organized. Additionally, he does not even have his company highlighted here or broken out, much like it is here and here. Also, down here, he uh, uh, italicizes his company that he worked at. He does not have a comma, City Foods Inc., comma, space Inc. Here he bolds, you know, and up here he's doing nothing. He's got it in the same line. So this is almost insulting type work for myself to have to look at. Italicized here, bolded here. This is childish stuff. Uh, he's, if this is how he treats his resume, you can imagine the ad copy that he's going to produce, the memos he's going to send in, the point papers he's going to develop. Any project that you give him to do is probably going to show up like dog meat, because this is his wedding right here. This is what he's producing to get married, okay? And he's showcasing dog meat. So after the honeymoon's over, which I would expect to last about a week, I think this is going to just, everything about him is going to head down the steps, and that is not good. So these are things I would honestly talk with him about and mention to him, you know, not only within yourself, but just the way the resume looks right now has got to all be cleaned up, and you definitely cannot go to market like this. You know, there's no way. And probably I think you would benefit from some general classes, not only about resume design, but I think it would be very helpful. I would like to see him generate some memos and things like that. So if I was coaching and consulting or trying to help him, these would be the areas I would focus on. And he may be very talented in all the other ones that he mentioned, but uh, you know, he seriously needs some help in focusing on these areas. So, additionally, I would like to also mention here, um, he's got a couple of other things that are concerning. Of course, the time frame where he was off for about 6 months is problematic for him. And the way I would just deal with that is over here, I'm using literally, uh, you can see like just 2003 to present. I'm getting rid of the months. So I understand he was out of work for 6 months, and my wife just spent 4 months, really taking her time, advancing herself into a new position, and really interviewing slowly. And so she is in the best job she's ever had. She's making the most amount of money that she's ever made before in her life. Luckily, we just have tremendous savings to where you can do that type of stuff. So it's really great to take your time. But if he just uses the year system here, this would take care of this problem for him. His education, obviously, this is not correctly listed. It's misleading, and he's going to get nailed on this. You actually never did graduate, and so you don't want to do that because they are going to check on it and you're going to get busted. But also it's dishonest. Let's not forget about that. What I would do here is literally just Purdue University. I would have him re-enroll in college. I don't care if he takes one course a year, one course a semester, one course, it doesn't matter. Re-enroll in college, finish what you started, and put it like that on your resume, that you are currently enrolled, you know, and then go on ahead and list the great things that you have there. That your dean's listed for 3 semesters, you are an above average student. That's all fantastic stuff, and you're seeking a bachelor's degree, which employers are excited about. Very excited to see people trying to uplift themselves and do better in life. So, you know, anyone that sees that's going to be super excited. I also have here his on-the-job training, which is quite nice. Uh, these are real life examples of things that he's learned, which are invaluable. Um, so he just needs to highlight them. Uh, of course, Adobe PageMaker, Photoshop, Microsoft Office. But the real world experience of helping develop the new products like Hokey Flakes for City Foods, this is all true. The redesign and label refreshes. He has actually led a lot of teams, a lot of people. And that is what led me to kind of discover up here. I have that he consults for 13 diverse organizations. That is true. And I might need to get rid of that second use of that word there, diverse. That's redundant. But he is actually working with a dozen plus team members because he's going around to the 13 different organizations. They each have a point of contact that he's working with, and he's leading and coaching them as an expert consultant towards success. So he actually is working with a dozen plus team right now, whether he realizes it or not. Um, they may not all be housed in one building that he goes to work in every day, but this is what he's been doing for the past 3 years. When he says, for the past 3 years, he's been working and doing this type of work. Um, his skills down here are just a reiteration of a little bit of that job that he presently has. He has got 9 different accounts at this job, and he's leading and consulting, with 13 different organizations. So he's got some super strong strengths that he's just not highlighting correctly and bringing to the forefront. Certainly his work in marketing. This is dangerous because this kind of stuff is code for I can't make it on my own. I'm a loser. I've run my whole company into the ground. I can't even make money in my company any longer. So what I do is I turn myself loose on some type of association that I can go belong to, and I'm teaching there and I'm doing seminars and so I reworded some of his presentation skills at the conferences down here to make it look much stronger. And I think in conjunction with his entire resume, the way it reads now, that this is much more fresh, clean, much more powerful, and he should probably have a 2-page resume ready for when the phone rings. And they say we want to have a little bit more of what you did in here, and we'd like you to send over a little bit more of what you did at each place. So he should have probably a 2-page resume, excuse me, ready for that. Moving back to his previous resume over here, aside of all the spacing and date problems where things don't line up, he has a tremendous amount of white space here, but a lot of his crowding is really not aesthetically nice on the eye, and it just does not come off very nice to read. So I just would like to end today by highlighting some of that and mentioning it because he over here with his old resume, if he would like to also have just a traditional resume and not have the fancy one that I did for him over here. Some of his spacing here is just not so good. Take a look, like here, there's no space here. Yet here he's got a bunch of, and a lot of this comes from design school. You know, when I went to the Art Institute for Design, he's got white space here. So, my big question is, why is this so crowded there? And why is this so crowded here? There's no white space underneath the phone number, you know, and he's got great white space here that is even, congruent, and the symmetry is nice. This is misspelled, the word professional. Tremendous amount of white space here. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's double or triple the amount of white space. Again, like I said, a lot of this is just childish. Here he's using a period, but in his other instances, he does not. And somebody who does not have any attention to detail, uh, you know, they're probably going to treat your product, your company, all of his work that he turns in just as nasty. So I really think he's got some serious stuff to work on within himself, and he needs to do some courses and classes in regard to this, or to hire an expert to work through this with him. It could just be a 1 week course with an expert, or just a colleague, in fact, who could really help him. If he had somebody like myself just to point out all of these things to him, and then we could categorize these. I think these are going back into his persona. These are problems in his work ethic. These are things you're going to see repeatedly coming out of his desk, his shop, his people, his team. All of these little things that I mentioned, you're going to see them all over again in so many different areas of his work ethic and product. I do believe he is quite talented, just looking at what he's doing, especially over here, his skills, and taking this one swimmer tag toy company all the way up to 2 product launches of $1 million a piece is no joke. But he just needs some polishing of the diamond. So those are things I would address with him and talk with him about, and try to not only fix for the resume, but to discuss with him. These are items we honestly need to discuss as colleagues together. The resume writer, or your coach, or your placement corporation who is going to place you into a job. Um, you know, Regrettably, if this is going to be his boss who hires him, the boss is probably going to take all this on, realizing that I'm going to have to to sit with him and work with him and coach him, and help him get through all these things to make him a better team member. So these are the items that I saw for my final project that I would like to turn in, and what I would do differently with his resume, and how I feel these items reach into his life as a professional, and how he'll perform moving forward in the future. That may be a little too much of what you were actually looking for, but I think it is insightful. And I thank you, sir.